When it comes to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris now believes women will vote for him. I'm Scott Ott, and this episode of Bill Whittle Now is brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. Bill, as all of the world has now heard, former Vice President Joe Biden, the Presumptive Democratic nominee, has chosen his running mate, and that is U.S. Senator Kamala Harris, who was the former Attorney General of the state of California and has a long and storied political career, including being called the most attractive Attorney General by former President Barack Obama. Bill, I've got a bunch of questions here, and I want to keep it as tight as possible. So let me first ask you for your initial response when you heard the Biden pick.
Oh, I thought we're done now. It's over. Might as well just hang up the election.
And who is we?
Just Republicans, we're finished. We might as well just head for Canada and stock up on beans and ammo, which is probably illegal in Canada, at least the ammo. No, I was enormously relieved to hear it, Scott. Enormously relieved. The only thing that I actually worried about, and I didn't have a very serious worry about this nevertheless, but it was the one thing that put some uncertainty into my mind would be if, look, first of all, Biden, it doesn't admit, he states that his running mate's going to be a female because, progress. And then after the Black Lives Matter thing with George Floyd, I said to myself, and maybe to you, a couple of other people, I said, at this point, the chance that Joe Biden's running mate is going to be a black woman is 100%. There was no question in my mind. My concern would be that they would pick a genuine wild card. And Sarah Palin was a wild card like that. She was an unpredictable, it's like, what?
Why would that be your concern, since Sarah Palin was part of the losing team in that race?
Yeah, but Sarah Palin was most of the winning part of the losing team. When Sarah Palin was announced as John McCain's running mate, they moved ahead in the polls. It was John McCain who gave up that fight. It wasn't Sarah Palin. But put that aside for a second. Because Sarah Palin was savage because she's a Republican. If they had picked a wild card Democrat, then the emotional impact of that could be something that would have to be factored in and would be an unknown.
Don't you think there's emotional impact, Bill, though? She is the daughter of a black man of Jamaican heritage. She is the daughter of an Indian woman who moved to the United States to pursue a doctorate. She's got that kind of Obama-like charisma and charm and is a citizen of the world. Don't you think that this was a bold and sensational move by the Biden campaign?
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry?
Do I need to restate the question?
No, I'm sorry. I just fell asleep. When I was talking about a wild card, just to wrap this up, I was talking about somebody like, and in fact, the two candidates I had in mind would be either Michelle Obama or Oprah Winfrey. And the reason those two people worried me was because they have enormously high popularity numbers. There'd be an awful lot to attack on them in terms of no political experience, but you could say the same thing about Donald Trump. And I was worried that there would be somebody in the race who would be genuinely emotionally appealing to large numbers of people. Because people don't vote on what they think, they vote on how they feel. So once he announced Kamala Harris, I felt even better about the outcome of the election. Let's not forget that Kamala Harris was one of the 725 Democratic presidential candidates that started the race. And she didn't get very far. And as a matter of fact, I think we can all agree, you certainly, and I have talked about this, you did a segment on it, that Kamala Harris's presidential campaign ended when Tulsi Gabbard destroyed her. About her record, specifically about her record as Attorney General for California and her being aware of injustices and not doing anything about it and so on. Kamala Harris, to put it bluntly, has basically slept her way to the top. I know that sounds like a very sexist thing to say. I'm trying to think of men who've slept their way to the top.
Are you saying literally slept her way to the top, like she had sex with people in order to advance her career? Or are you using that in some figurative sense?
My understanding is that she had a romance with, what's his name? Tom Bradley. That's what whatever it was that was reported. I don't remember if it was him, but it was highly credible sourced. And look, you could say other people slept their way to the top. Just off the top of my head here, Tom Arnold slept his way to the top. But
who's Tom Arnold?
He married Roseanne Barr. Briefly.
Now, Bill, seriously, I got to stop you here. What you just did just sounds like mudslinging, unsubstantiated trash that is frankly a desperate move on the part of a conservative Republican to make a woman look bad because she's competent, she's got a storied political career, she's been a senator, and she has managed to run a presidential campaign, although, pulling in the high 2 digits, meaning she had 2%. That smear is just the kind of politics that I think Americans are saying we've had enough of, isn't it? Well,
I do apologize for the smear because it was a cheap shot, but it's an accurate cheap shot. So yeah, I regret saying that because it was a cheap shot, and you don't need to take cheap shots with Kamala Harris.
No, in fact, let me tell you what the Republicans are saying. This was a story in The Hill, and it starts off reviewing what Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, has been saying, and then piles on with a couple of other Republicans. But basically, Republicans are saying that Kamala Harris used her Attorney General office to assault conservative nonprofits, to assault energy companies, to assault parents, but not to assault violent gangs and illegal alien criminals. And now, McCarthy says, she wants to turn America into San Francisco. Not to be outdone, Liz Cheney, no consistent friend of the president. I shouldn't say that. Often a critic of the president, or seen as a critic of the president, even though she votes with him some 97% of the time. House Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney says Harris is a radical liberal who would take away guns and health insurance and explode the size and power of the federal government. She wants to recreate America in the image of what's happening in the streets of Portland and Seattle, and we won't give her the chance.
Those are all positives as far as the Democratic Party is concerned. And so when you talk about Kamala Harris, the attacks on her from the Republican Party will be all of those. I didn't go to those because I don't think they matter much to anybody who's not already a Republican, or at least one of the Democrats who find themselves increasingly unable to stay in that party. When you say that she's soft on crime, that's a plus for the Democrats. When you say that she wants to, take away guns, that's a plus for the Democrats. All of this stuff. The question is, what are the negatives for the Democrats? And that's why I'm feeling so happy that he picked her, because the negatives for the Democrats are destroying. They are fatal. And Tulsi Gabbard knocked her out of the race in 4 or 5 minutes.
There's a professor who doubled down on what Tulsi Gabbard said. I want to get to this from the New York Times in a column that said, this is from Laura Bazelon, who's the former director of the Loyola School Project for the Innocent in Los Angeles. And she goes through this column in the New York Times that just documents case after case after case in which she believes that Kamala Harris, as Attorney General and previously as District Attorney, protected people who were corrupting the prosecutorial process and pressed for heavy sentences and refusing to review convictions of people who had massive problems with their prosecution. In other words, this woman is saying, Laura Bazelon is saying, that Harris is not a progressive prosecutor as she touts herself. In fact, let me give you her conclusion. If Kamala Harris wants people who care about dismantling mass incarceration and correcting miscarriages of justice to vote for her, she needs to radically break with her past. A good first step would be to apologize to the wrongfully convicted people she has fought to keep in prison and to do what she can to make sure they get justice. I know this is not going to have the punch that Tulsi Gabbard had, but do you think this is a real weakness on the progressive left for her, or will they all just say, you know what, Biden's our guy now, suck it up?
Fatal weakness. Fatal weakness. For the person who was hired, let's just deal with the facts as they exist and not just dance around this, okay? This whole thing was a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say quota. I want to say the entire idea of racial divide is the essence of the progressive plan for for America. Divide America into tribes, set them up against each other, and sit back and eat the popcorn and watch the destruction. So when Joe Biden said, my vice president will be a woman, that is an appeal to identity politics. And after George Floyd, it was clear to me that it would also be a black woman because of identity politics. So she's there because of identity politics. Now, in a season, in an election year, where the Democrats are running with Black Lives Matter, they're running with the rioting in the streets, they're rioting with the case of police brutality, they're on the side of defunding the police, all of this. If his choice in Kamala Harris had been somebody who was lenient with offenders, who was making a major effort to make sure that nobody went to jail unjustly, she would still be a law enforcement official, and it'd be an uphill fight. But when you find out, as Tulsi said, and as this other author said, when you find out that she was absolutely flip about people who might be, or in fact likely were illegally incarcerated because they were innocent, that is a fatal attribute for this particular ticket at this particular time for the Democrats. It's fatal. And how they're going to try and get away with this, if they're trying to get her on the ticket to say, well, we actually have some law and order left in the Democratic Party, this is the champion you want for this? The person who's, talking about taking away guns in California, and is by the way, it's probably not as important as it used to be, right? But traditionally, the vice presidential pick was usually somebody from a battleground state whose influence might turn that state. And I'm not seeing that Kamala Harris is going to do much to turn California blue. California is about as blue as it gets, although we may be in for a surprise this year. I genuinely believe that. But in any event, Scott, it was really once Biden made that statement, and then after the Democratic Party's response to the Floyd incident, then I knew the chance of it being a black woman was 100%, and that really, really narrowed down the field of capability of possibilities. You ended up with Kamala Harris and Susan Rice and maybe two or three others. Now, if you pick Condoleezza Rice, he'd have a chance to win the election, but he didn't. This is the president of the United States. Let's not forget. Kamala Harris is running for president of the United States. She's not running for vice president. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. You know it. I know it. CNN knows it. Trump knows it. The only person who doesn't know it is Biden himself. He will not survive his first year in office. I don't see any way for him to get elected if he has a debate with Donald Trump. I do see a world where they stash him away. And as I've said before, I think the most likely case is going to be that if Biden drops out before he is the official Democratic Party nominee, then it goes to the second place guy, which is Bernie, and Bernie has no chance to win. But if Biden, this is my understanding, if Biden is the official nominee of the Democratic Party after the DNC convention, and then drops out of the race prior to the election, then the DNC essentially selects a candidate. And I am 95% sure that's what's going to happen. But in any event, when I heard that it was officially Kamala Harris, I breathed an enormous sigh of relief. Enormous.
Ladies and gentlemen, the members at BillWhittle.com have made it possible for us to produce more than 40 programs every month, analyzing the top news of the day in the context of time-tested principles. If you're not yet part of that team, not only that makes it possible for us to produce content, but that is actually a content-producing machine at BillWhittle.com. Perhaps you want to check it out today and join these liberty lovers, these constitutional conservatives, some of whom will become lifelong friends. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Oh, by the way, go to BillWhittle.com and click the big green Become a Member button. I nearly forgot to say that. Thanks for watching.